When exactly did I start looking at a project and think, hey, I can fix that with crochet? Like, seriously, I'd like to know. G'day friends! Today I'm going to walk you through a dead simple lace pattern for making your own beading lace. If you're not sure what exactly beading lace is, it's the edging or insertion lace with the ribbon woven through it. CostTube viewers will remember it as a very popular addition to many Victorian and Edwardian chemises and corset covers. Honestly, with the amount of late 1800s, early 1900s undies we lot have been making, you'd think we all lived in frilly tanks and knickers. I don't blame you if you didn't know it was called beading lace. The name surprised the heck out of me too. Try looking it up on the internet sometime. You'll find a lot of knitting and crochet patterns that use seed beads, but not a lot of ribbon. You might not want to use beads on your beading lace if you have very sensitive skin. That's a whole Princess and the Pea vibe just waiting to happen. I'm not an extremely experienced crocheter, I'm a dabbler, or at least I was. When it comes to things like lace, I usually think of knitting first, crochet somewhere down the line behind tatting and bobbin lace. However, that opinion's changed over the past couple of months. Every time I'd go looking for lace trim, yokes, or edgings on archive.org or antiquepatternlibrary.org, I'd come up with crochet. When exactly did I start looking at a project and think, hey, I can fix that with crochet? Like, seriously, I'd like to know. Follow me down the rabbit hole, if you will, on a not-so-deep dive into antique crochet. Would you call that a shallow dive? Probably. Join me on a shallow dive into antique crochet so you too can make that lace with the ribbon in it. When it comes to the demonstration, I'm going to use a hook and yarn the camera can pick up, but first we're going to talk about lace versus gauge. Until I started down this sketchy path of what I'm starting to think of as the slow lace movement, I didn't know there was any crochet cotton finer than ye olde bog standard number 10. For those equally clueless as myself, that's the really skinny thread you'll find on that one shelf in Michael's, squeezed in somewhere at the end of one aisle with the very small collection of Red Heart It's a Wrap rainbow shawl yarn that has every colorway except the one you want. You know the one with the pinks and the purples. It's on Ravelry, but you've never managed to find it, even though you've gone to 3 different Michael's stores in your city. And if it wasn't for the 48 people on Ravelry who've stashed it, you'd think it was a typo or something to do with the Mandela effect. Yeah, that aisle. At any rate, now that I'm aware there's more than just Aunt Lydia's number 10 crochet thread, I've been keeping an eye out. Unlike knitting yarn, which gets a bigger number every time you increase in thickness, crochet thread gets thinner. I don't have all the sizes here, but the thickest gauge of this kind of crochet cotton I've seen is size 3, followed by size 8, then our friend here size 10. Then, if you're looking at traditional crochet cotton, the numbers go up by a factor of 10 for each level of thinness. So I have a ball of DMC Sibelian number 20, which I gather is a standard size 20. The thinnest standard size in my collection is a ball of Lisbeth number 80. Now I'm going to classify the next couple of balls as non-standard. I have DMC 8, which seems to be compatible to the Sibelia number 20, and DMC number 12, which seems just a little thicker than the number 80. So maybe somewhere between a number 50 and a number 70. You might be wondering why this matters. That's a pretty big difference. That's our friend, the standard Aunt Lydia's number 10, next to the DMC number 12 I've been using. Now you know why I generally use a magnifying mirror when I'm working with this stuff. I found the DMC 8 and the number 12 at Michael's, but they weren't anywhere near the other crochet cottons. You'll find them snuggled in with the embroidery floss. The number 20 and number 80 are a little harder to find. You may need to order them online or see if there's a Yarncraft store that carries them. Yarncraft. I'm using that as a very pancraftual way of saying yarn store or knitting store because I can count on one hand the amount of times I've walked into a yarn store looking for crochet supplies. The pattern is Ribbon Casing No. 321C from Corticelli Lessons in Crochet Book No. 2. I found a copy on antiquepatternlibrary.org, linked below in the description. They suggest you use Corticelli mercerized coordinate Art 66, which apparently was available in all the sizes from 3 to 80. Considering the size of the number 10 sample, number 3 is going to be pretty big. Terms are written in American crochet because apparently crochet has questionable standards. Yes, I could have said that crochet is an international craft of mystery, but I think that's giving it a bit too much credit for a hobby you have to relearn every time you get a pattern from a different continent. So what we're going to do is chain 12 to start off. We'll work one treble in the 5th stitch from the hook, chain 6, and put one treble in each of the last 2 stitches of the 12 chain. Turn it around. We're going to chain 3 to take the place of our first treble. Then put another treble in the second treble. We're going to then put 6 trebles into that long 6 chain. Put a treble in the top of the last treble, and another in the top of the 3 chain next to it. Give her a turn. Make a fake treble by chaining 3 and put a treble in the next treble over. Chain 6, treble in the next treble, and in the top of the 3 chain at the end. Now we're going to make the little, what's that thing on the end? A minaret? An ice cream swirl? A nipple? We're going to make that decorative thing. Oh, the pattern calls it a scallop. I guess that works. Chain 5 and fasten it with a slip stitch in the 3 chain at the end of the second row. Chain 1 and turn that bad boy around. Put 5 double stitches in the 5 chain. Then we're going to make a picot by chaining 4. After that, another 5 doubles in the 5 chain. There's the scallop with its nipple, picot thingy. We'll put a slip stitch in the next treble to lock that curve down, and chain 3 to make a new fake treble. Treble into the next stitch over and put 6 trebles into that long 6 chain. Treble into the last 2 stitches. One is that last treble and its buddy the 3 chain. Chain 5 and attach it with a slip stitch to the 3 chain. Chain 1 and turn it around. Do the scallop again. 5 doubles, chain 4, and another 5 doubles in the 5 chain. Lock it in place with a slip stitch in the next treble. And keep repeating the pattern. You'll work a row with a chain 6 and a scallop on the end and work your way back, filling in that chain with 6 trebles before you do another scallop. It seems a bit convoluted, but it's actually pretty easy to memorize. If you're a more experienced hooker and find this lace is just a little too simple for you, you can always build off it. You could chain from one picot to the next, adding a base for any new rows you might want to add. There's no reason you can't expand this lace to become the top or middle of some larger work. You can also shorten the amount of chains and trebles in that middle section if you want to use a thicker gauge, and totally omit the chain 4 in the scallop if the picot just triggers all sorts of weird memories. It's a really flexible pattern. I find the most challenging part of this process is seeing what I'm doing. As I've mentioned in previous videos, I use a magnifying lamp, so this isn't a project I can take along with me unless I plan to spend the day with my glasses off, possibly straining my vision. So for all you young folks out there with 20/20 vision, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to make lace for all the old biddies like me who need progressives. Go forth and make ribbon lace, or beading lace, trim, whatever. The lace with the ribbon in it. In the meantime, I've got a couple of projects on the go. There's Pimp My Schmeeze to finish up, as well as a new contender for my time, Operation Nice Rack. If you haven't done so already, please click that subscribe button. Dinging the bell will give you options to notify you when I upload. I shoot for Sundays, but if I get sidetracked by a project, I might miss a week. So the bell is definitely your buddy. Till then, friends. If you look up here, there's a video I think you're going to like. YouTube thinks you're gonna like that one.